We're waiting. We're waiting. We're waiting. We're loading. Hello, everyone. Hello. My name is Charlie Bonner, the Communications Director here at Move, Texas. Welcome to another great edition of Move University, Social Justice for Social Distancing. We are now many weeks into this, but I'm so excited for everyone that has continued to watch with us over this quarantine period. Really grateful today to be joined by Jen Van Cleve, the Texas State Director for All on the Line. Jen, how are you doing?
You know, as well as to be expected, I suppose. We're getting by, we're getting by. Looking forward to a long weekend.
Yes.
Little social distancing. I don't know. We're going to see how much fun we can have socially distanced and masked up.
The possibilities are endless, I like to think.
They're not, Charlie. They're not.
They're not. They're definitely not. But positivity. But I'm excited. We all need that break. I feel like a holiday weekend, even in quarantine. Very important. Well, let's just start off with some really basic info. Can you tell me a little bit about All on the Line and what y'all are up to right now?
Absolutely. So All on the Line is the C4 affiliate for the National Democratic Redistricting Committee. And that organization was founded by former Attorney General Eric Holder. There are several, we have a strategy. We have many parts to the strategy. So we've got a affiliate that's a C3 that does a lot of legal work, some of which you may have heard about in Texas recently. We have the NDRC we have a PAC, and so they're going to be very involved, I think, with campaigns this year. And I would look for a bunch of legislative endorsements next week. You heard it here first.
We're breaking news on Move You for the first time.
And finally, there's the C4 part, which is the issue advocacy and public education part of the organization. And that's the part that I spend the most time doing. Although I will tell you that our work has changed considerably. When I signed up a year ago, because I believe my work anniversary is next week, I was so excited to work full-time on redistricting. Having worked in politics a long time in Texas, I have been in these gerrymandered districts, and I understand that oftentimes the issues that these communities care so much about, healthcare, education, all of the things, the opportunity, voting rights, civil rights, don't make it to the legislature because folks aren't allowed to, because of gerrymandering, elect the folks they want. Politicians choose them. And so I've always wanted to work on this issue. The pandemic has changed our work some. It's expanded our remit, my remit in particular, because if we don't have free and fair elections, Charlie, we can't work on redistricting. If the census doesn't get done in a way that there's a full count of every single person that lives in this country, then it's really going to have a profound effect on redistricting. So I consider all of these issues interrelated. And my primary purpose is redistricting, but I spend a lot of time talking about mail-in ballots these days, Charlie.
Don't we all? Well, I think that's a great segue. And if our friends are watching right now on Facebook Live or on Twitter, you can be sure to comment your questions, tweet them at us, slide into our Instagram DMs. I'm following it all. I'll be sure to pose them to Jen. But you talked a little bit about about gerrymandering. I think that's a word that gets thrown around a lot, but I'm not sure a lot of people actually know what it means. And no one should be embarrassed if they don't know what it means. But can you tell us a little bit about what gerrymandering actually is?
I'd be happy to. And let me just say, when it comes to redistricting, a lot of the terms and stuff, many people don't know, including elected officials. We are behind the 8 ball in some of our civics, and we need to catch up because there's a lot riding. There's a lot on the line, if you will, of us knowing what's going on. So let me give you an example of gerrymandering, particularly for those folks that are from Travis County. You will understand this example. We have 5 congressional members from Travis County, and you would think that would be a wonderful thing, a lot of representation for one area. As it turns out, only one of them is from the Democratic Party, and the rest of them are from the Republican Party. Now, who lives in Travis County, and how do they vote year in and year out? And I think young people in particular are often surprised when they move to Austin, which is supposed to be like the diamond in the goat's ass, the blueberry in the tomato soup, that they have moved to some sort of liberal mecca. And yet, most people that live in this county have not chosen their representative. Their representative has been chosen for them because this community is cracked into a million pieces.
Yeah. I think we see this, Austin, it really is such a great example of how this has happened, but especially about how it dilutes student voices. So we see like the University of Texas, if you live on campus, that's one district. If you live in West Campus, that's a different district. If you live on Riverside, that's a different district.
Right.
And all of this makes it where there are no representatives accountable to students in Austin.
And the thing that the great example for me, particularly for students that attend the University of Texas, is Congressional District 10. Congressional District 10 runs from Pflugerville, my hometown, all the way down to Katy, Texas, and it goes right through the University of Texas. So there is no way. I mean, students have worked so hard, and you know, it sounds like a goofy thing. It sounds like an old lady thing to say, and it kind of is, but the youth movement has really blossomed in the last 10 years, and there's been so much organization. And I think they're ready for that to pay off and elect people that represent their views. And in a district like District CD10, it's just impossible because it's been cut in so many different places that there is no one that could truly represent all of the different interests of those people, regardless of where you find yourself on the political spectrum. So for university students in particular, and the fights that y'all have had at Southwest Texas or Texas State now, and at the HBCU right outside of Houston, you know, this will be this fight this year to make sure that students can vote, displaced students that aren't where they ordinarily would have been this time of year, is one of the most important jobs anybody could do. And so I applaud MOVE and your organizers, the people watching, for caring so much about something that is absolutely fundamental to everyone's well-being and success, regardless of age.
Yeah. Completely agree. And so we're talking about the drawing of the lines and how crazy they are. But who actually gets to draw these lines? Who has the Sharpie marker on top of the map of Texas?
Well, that's a great question there, Charlie Bonner. Okay, so who draws the lines? Here we go. So the Texas legislature draws the lines. That's why it's important to know who your representative is and how they feel about redistricting. How they feel about fair maps will tell you everything you need to know about how they feel about healthcare, gun control, student debt, and the issues go on and on. A very short tutorial, and I mean short, is this. Congressional maps are drawn every 10 years. They are drawn first by the committees, the House and Senate redistricting committees. Then they are voted upon by the House and the Senate and sent to the governor. If none of the parties agree, those maps go directly to federal court.
Okay.
Yep. House and Senate maps. These are Texas House and Senate maps. Go through the same committee process, redistricting committee in the Senate and the House, and then the full body votes upon those maps. If the legislature can't agree, or if the governor vetoes them, they go to what's called the Legislative Redistricting Board. We call it the LRB. The LRB, for the uninitiated, is where hope and light go to die.
Yes.
The LRB is the Death Star of democracy. All right?
Trademark that statement.
Because here's what you should know about here's who sits on the LRB, Charlie. The Lieutenant Governor of Texas right now, that's Dan Patrick. You may know him from some comments like, there are some things more important than living. Let's see, Ken Paxton, our indicted attorney general. He's been indicted on securities fraud, felony securities fraud for 4 years, never faced a jury of his peers. He's on the LRB. The General Land Office Commissioner, George P. Bush, he's on there, but I don't even know what he does. Glenn Hagar, who is the comptroller, on the LRB. And finally, the Speaker of the House, who is currently, well, we don't know. But say if the House was to be flipped, then there may very well be a person that supports fair maps on the LRB in 2021. Mm-hmm. But you're going to hear me talk a lot in the next months and maybe years about the LRB. I've never been acquainted with a level of government that does not follow sunshine rules. Mm-hmm. The LRB does not open its doors to the public, to students who want to even learn about the process. They don't open their doors to fellow elected officials, and they certainly do not open their doors to the press. I don't know what they do in there, but anytime there's a locked door and there's money and power involved, let me assure you that students are not going to benefit. Yep. So you cannot know everything there is to know about redistricting, but know this. The LRB has a tremendous amount of power and no accountability. Yeah. And that cocktail never works out well for anyone.
Yeah, it is like this caricature of like the back room, right? I can only imagine that they're smoking cigars inside still in the year 2020 and drinking whiskeys and ruining our lives.
But I believe that is the picture I also get in my mind. Right? Last smoke-filled room.
Right. And let's see, we are getting some questions here in the Facebook feed, so I want to make sure we're seeing those. Sure. Erica, I know we talked a lot about Austin. We're seeing Erica say they see the same thing in Dallas, Collin County. Absolutely true. Absolutely. CJ noted his parents live in CD20 while across the street is CD21. Crazy gerrymandering just in your own neighborhood. We see this all over, countless stories. Let's see if I can read at the same time. Jonathan asked, if Dems win the Texas House, I've heard that we would be able to submit redistricting plans, but it wouldn't be approved by the Senate. And if that happens, it goes to a special committee. Now, is that back room that we're kind of talking about, if there's a difference between the House and the Senate?
Okay, so if there's a difference between the House and the Senate and the body cannot agree, then the maps go to the bill that the maps are in, mm-hmm. goes to the LRB. That's the special committee, and it is very special, Charlie, but not for any reason that any of us would be proud of.
Yeah, yeah. So we need to all make sure that we know about the LRB and are telling people about this because they don't want you to know about it. Yeah, Evan also noted it's really important to find out who your reps are and how they voted on these matters so that we know about this moving forward. So I think that's great, Evan. Thanks for adding that too. I guess my kind of question moving from this is kind of doom and gloom. It's a little bit doom and gloom. How do the politicians keep getting away with this?
Right. Well, the first thing you want to do when you think about redistricting is to know that people in power, no matter who they are, mm-hmm. like to stay in power, right? Yeah. And so it's an incumbents game. And what I would say, to cut through a lot of this, redistricting decides where all the power and the money are. Mm-hmm. Those maps determine whose voice is heard. So, which leads us to what we can do about it. First of all, we need to know who represents us. Second of all, boy, I know that you guys are the voting reg experts, but I know now is a very difficult time that takes lots of steps to register, and I would encourage anybody that's watching this to stick close to Move, because they're going to know how to move you to being registered better than anybody I know of. And the final thing is we let them do this to us, and they're not going to let it go without a fight. Democrats and Republicans, frankly, have not distinguished themselves, either party, in the long run. When I say where all the power and the money goes, which is what redistricting determines, let's just be clear. that's it's that argument has always been true, no matter who's in charge, and the same people are always harmed at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So ultimately, we at All on the Line, and look at models in other states that work well. Independent redistricting commissions, bipartisan redistricting commissions work well, but that's not something that's going to happen in Texas without a constitutional amendment. And you know what else we could do with the constitutional amendment? Get rid of the LRB, because it was constitutionally created in 1951. I wonder why they were worried about sharing power in 1951. The legislative intent says it was rural versus urban. Y'all figure it out. You're smart people.
Jen, I need your movie about the Texas legislature. I'm ready to watch it. I'm ready to watch your civics lesson whenever you're ready to teach it. I also just watched a great film, The Slay the Dragon. I think that it's just coming out. I just watched a pre-screening of it. But it gives a great look into how they established the Independent Redistricting Committee in Wisconsin.
Colorado. Michigan, Wisconsin. Here's what I know about that movie. I think I can work with my Colorado state director colleague, and if any of the folks that are listening or watching this want to watch that movie for free, I think I can get you set up.
I love that. Just if you're watching and want to see it, email me. We'll try to figure it out, because I cried at the and then I was like, did I just cry at a movie about gerrymandering?
No, but you know what? Look, I've been doing this a long time, but redistricting for less than a year. And I know I keep saying it's where all the power and the money get divvied up, but it's true. And I feel like so oftentimes, like I helped women get elected for many years through Annie's List. And I would do these trainings and women would come and say, I could never understand how to run for office. And I'm like, this is not rocket science. And you and I can sit down together in an afternoon and you'll be ready to go. Because these issues that they make sound really hard to understand, or that they don't want you to understand, it's if you understand how to hook up all of the electronics in your life and play Animal Crossing, you can understand redistricting, because it's just stuff to understand. There's nothing beyond anyone's capability here. And I think they make it hard to understand. I think we don't talk about it in schools because they want to make sure your organizers, the very people that are making your move, don't know. If they've got you fighting in primaries with other folks to try and get AOC elected in a gerrymandered district, then they know they've beat you. But if you redraw the map so an AOC style person could win in Travis County because we had 2 congressional districts as opposed to 5, that's real power. And that's the secret about gerrymandering.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Really puts it into some great perspective. And I understand that a lot of the data that they use for redistricting, the legislators come next session, that comes from the census, right? Can we talk a little bit about that process and why it's important to take the census? Because there's still time.
There is still time. There is absolutely time. Look, every 10 years we do a census. And let me just say, Texas didn't spend any money to tell anybody to fill out the census. But do you know what, Charlie? Do you know why Joseph and Mary went to Bethlehem on that Christmas night so long ago?
To be counted.
That's right, for the census. So if Joseph and Mary can get it together to fill out the census form and deliver Jesus Christ to the world, then you and I can get online and figure out how to fill out a census form. And if we don't have access to the internet, because not everybody does, there are phone numbers that I bet we could put in the chat or in Facebook to tell people, you can call the US Census Department right now on your cell phone and get counted. And the reason we do those counts is because we reapportion seats in this country every 10 years. And if Texas fills out their census form, we are on track to get 3 new congressional seats. And that, my friends, look, these are going to be seats in areas where there are a lot of young people, where there's a lot of, my husband is calling me, I'm sorry. we're going camping this weekend. He has a question.
I support you.
But back to the important part. Look, there's a reason that they don't talk about redistricting. There's a reason they don't spend money on the census, is because they want the folks that are interested in organizations like yours not to participate. There are ways to participate. I don't consider the census, I consider it a power building exercise.
Yeah.
If we are all counted, if we all vote, then we're in charge.
Yeah.
If we sit it out, if we're afraid, if they make it too hard, then we get what we get.
Yeah.
But I understand that that's a cavalier thing to say, because people are concerned about their safety at the polls, which is why ballot by mail is so important.
Mhm.
I understand that so many communities in this state, voting has never been safe. And there have been consequences to voting. So I don't want to be cavalier about people participating, but you have to determine what you want, not just for you and your family, but for your neighbors, your community, and for your state, your country. And what do you have to lose?
Yeah, absolutely. And we do want to remind folks, if you haven't taken the census, you still can. We are seeing that young people, students in particular, are responding at some of the lowest rates in Texas right now. And we have to get those numbers up so we can have that seat at the table that Jen's talking about. It's my2020census.gov is the website. And we can drop more info about that in the link. Thank you. We also have our census webpage up there. So if you have any questions, you can check that out, because we know things can be a little bit confusing right now with where people should be taking it and stuff like that.
100%. And I bet a lot of the people that tune into your organization and volunteer on behalf of your organization are the people in their neighborhood and their circle of friends that everybody goes to, right?
Yeah.
If you're talking about redistricting, odds are you're the person in your family that when civic stuff comes up, people ask you. Well, be that leader. You're a leader in your family and community just by showing up.
Yeah. And you can just text all the group meetings that you're in, just link to the census.
There you
Very
go.
easy. Very easy to be a leader in this
Right?
space. And then
Right?
that has a great impact on the work that Jen's doing to help with us with redistricting.
It does.
So how can people get involved in this? We're talking a lot about how the politicians have the power here.
Right.
They're the ones drawing the maps, but what's the people power here? How can we get involved?
The people power, you know, I tell people this. The people power has a lot to do with showing up to hearings or being prepared to do testimony for the legislature. And frankly, some of the people that have commented about what gerrymandering looks like in their neighborhood, in their town, is exactly the kind of testimony that should be in the public record. Because the state has not made a plan on how to continue people testifying in person, and we are working diligently with some really good folks in the legislature to try and figure out how we can make sure people can give their testimony online. Look, I can't tell you how important that is, particularly in Texas, because so much redistricting and gerrymandering ends up in the courts. Until there are very different people at the table, and a lot more different people at the table, the fight on what happens in Texas, particularly in the democracy space, often comes down to the courts. So building a record. Also, guys, so many people don't know what this is. And again, if you hide information, you know it must be valuable. So let's make sure that this information goes everywhere. I'm available for bar mitzvahs, for graduations. I will go anywhere on Zoom and soon enough in person. But also, it doesn't have to be me. I will teach whoever wants to know how this works so they go on and teach their friends, because we cannot rely on, there's nobody coming to save us. We are the ones that we have been waiting for. And so, like everything else, you roll up your sleeves, you make announcements for a Zoom meeting, you hope people come, you deliver the information, you try and follow up, you get people on the public record, you get people to fill out the census, you get people voting, and next thing you know, old Jed's a millionaire, the world changes. It's just that simple.
Yeah. I feel fired up now. I feel very fired up. I feel I'm feeling good, feeling like we need to get involved. Now we're on our last little bit of time here. And so I did want to ask, we have part of our Move You series, we always release movie recommendations and books and articles to read for folks that are social distancing. We all have a little bit of time to kill right now. So any recommendations for folks, whether about redistricting or just what you're reading and watching right now?
Okay, so a really good redistricting book by I think his name is Dave Haley. The title is incredibly rude, so forgive my language, but I didn't write it. The name of the book is Rat Fucked, and it's a short, quick read about how Republicans used gerrymandering to an amazing effect in 2010 and 2011. You know, Obama won, we were like, okay, the world's changed. We can start, you know, thinking bigger and broader. And our counterparts in the Republican Party chose that opportunity to draw some really crazy maps. The book I am reading right now is called Circe by Marianne Miller.
I've heard good things.
You know, it's a good book, but I was talking to a friend of mine. I feel like Circe is a Karen. I feel like,
oh no.
I know, but I'm hanging with the book, even
Maybe
though
they will turn around.
I'm hanging with the book, even though I think she's going to call the manager, and I think she might be using her white lady powers for bad. I am going to read this book because I love Greek mythology, but it's so tired of the like patriarchy lens that it's, you know, talked about and written about. So even though she's a Karen, I'm going to take this journey with Circe to see if she learns anything or gets intersectional at the end. I don't know.
Here's for hoping. Here's for hoping. Some great recs. And if you're watching with us, make sure you check out our Twitter where we release the list of recommendations about gerrymandering. And also, if you've missed any of the Move Yous, they're going to be on IGTV and YouTube and here on Facebook. Any last things to add, Jen?
Yes, you can also sign a citizen commitment pledge that Barack Obama asked everyone to sign, and Eric Holder. And if you need that pledge, we need not be close together. You just go to www.allontheline.org and sign up for a citizen commitment. Help me find you, and we're going to get you armed with the information to take back your country because it's yours. You know what I mean? It's all of ours, but man, it's been a long time since it's been yours. So let's make that happen.
Awesome, Jen. Thank you so much. We'll make sure we put that information out there for folks in the comments and on Twitter. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for watching. We will be back soon with more Move University.